Welcome to the Boiling Point Podcast. This is Mariana and Kristy, and today we have our first session of Simply Speaking. Our special guest today is Mrs. Sandra Gonzalez.
Hi
Welcome,
there.
ladies.
Thank
Hi.
you.
Hi,
So,
everybody.
hi. Mrs. Sandra Gonzalez is running for school board director here at the West Shore School District, Region 3.
Yes.
So Sandra has been on the boiling point before. We know that she has a very loud voice. Okay, she
Yep.
has a very loud personality. She says what she means what she said, and she stands by what she believes. So Sandra, tell me, why did you decide to run for school board?
Funny you should ask that. Well, I started attending, my husband and I have been in ministry for years. And as you know, when you're in ministry, it's your whole life. So every ate, slept, drank ministry, plus raised four kids. So my husband, a year and a half ago, took a position as a chaplain at the Camp Hill State Prison, which freed me up. I've always had a passion for politics. But when you're saving souls, that's your priority. And we've pastored, we've run Christian drug and alcohol programs, we've done prison ministry together. But with this position, for him, it's full time in the state prison, with has only a men's population. And I just don't feel called to go in and help him in any capacity. So the Lord has blessed me then to be able to step into something that has been a passion of mine, that I have stayed well read nationally on politics, somewhat on the state politics, but had never really gotten involved in local. So I started going to township meetings. They tried to sell our septic system here in the township, which would have been to York Water, and our bills would have tripled. And they admitted it.
Tell me
York
about it.
Water admitted it. So we fought that and we won. And so I started to get engaged, and I've always been engaged. I've worked uh, this when John McCain brought on Sarah Palin. I started, campaigning, working for the campaign, not working, volunteering for the campaign. I've done poll watching. I've done, the whole gambit that way as a volunteer. And then ended up hiring on the Trump campaign in the general election here, 2024, and worked as a staff member in York County for the Trump campaign, and got involved. But I had inadvertently started attending school board meetings. And I went with a friend of mine. She just, wanted some support. And so I started attending with her, and then hearing some of this stuff going on. And, you hear this stuff if you follow conservative news. You know that the school boards are bad. A lot of them, not
Wow,
all
yeah.
of them. But you know that parents are being shouted down, drug out,
Right.
and arrested. And you see this stuff on conservative news and you go, wow. So I started attending, and I started to see what was going on in the room, where you would get 40 or 50 people who were liberal in their views, woke in their character and in their desires for the students, and their hair would be on fire, and they'd come in and scream at the school board members, all nine of them. And you could see the fear hit these members, and they wanted to buckle, cry, go home, and suck their thumb, some of them. And so I began to voice support for our children and for the conservative leaning school board members to stand strong, to get out there and hear what the public says. Because I know, because I'm out there knocking doors. I knocked almost 6,000 doors for the Trump campaign just in the general election. So I hear the hearts of the people. I'm out there. I also love people in general. So when I'm in Walmart, when I'm in Sheets, I talk to people just in general, not because somebody's running for, just I've always have. Talk to the person behind you in line, the person in front of you, smiling at the little children that are being silly. And in the community, these parents are saying, why isn't anyone standing up and fighting for our kids?
Right.
Why do we have these things in our libraries? Why are these teachers pushing this?
Amen.
Why is the administration doing that? And so as I began to attend faithfully to the school board meetings and trying to really get on the right side of an issue fearlessly and without backing down, even if you're in the room alone, even if you're the only voice in that room sticking up and fighting for our children and our grandchildren, you do it because it's the right thing to do.
Amen. That's it.
It doesn't matter if they berate you and call you names. And
That's
I've
right.
had that. I've had that. And they've tried at times to jump me, so to speak, after the meeting and try to, get me to back down on something. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Because that method's not going to work on me. Because I'll die for what I believe. I literally and truly and 100% know that I'll die for what I believe. I've even told my children, as I'm out knocking doors and as I'm out in the community and things like that, if I ever get shot, stepping in front of a bullet for someone else, or jumping a gunman down, or I'm knocking doors and somebody murders me because I'm wearing a Trump shirt, you be proud of me. You be proud of what I've stood for. And we've done that in ministry, because we have ministered to the drug addict, to the ex-convict, and we have treated them like family to the extent that we could. And my children have seen that over the years. So this is character that God built in me. This is not of me by any means. I was a drug addict, and I got saved at 23 years old. And I got on my knees in my apartment in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Easter Sunday morning, 1988. And I'm telling you, when I got up off my knees, I was delivered. I was fully and 100% delivered, and I have never looked back. I am 60 years old, and I have spent my entire life in the Lord helping to set others free and telling my story, not being ashamed, telling my story of how Jesus Christ not only saved me, delivered me, but has kept me. And then he installed in me a fearlessness that his desire is to use for those that have no voice, for the weak,
Right.
for those that need somebody to
Right.
step up and say, not my kid, not my neighbor's kid. And I will finish with this. I remember one time years ago, I've corrected other people's children. I remember grabbing a cigarette out of a fourth grader's mouth over at the roller rink. And I grabbed the pack of cigarettes out of his hands. It was a Friday night. He was out front smoking, fourth grade. And he said, "You can't do that. That's stealing." I said, "You're right." I said, "Tell your mother to give me a call and I'll give her back the pack of cigarettes," and walked away. I can remember, though, the story I wanted to tell was a father standing at the bus stop one time. And he had his daughter right by his side, nice and close. And the other kids began to play and kind of get closer to the street and stuff. And all this father cared about was that his daughter was safe. Never thought to say to the other kids, "Hey, you're not allowed to be that close to the street. Get back here," which is what any of us would do. Any good parent would say to anybody's kid, "You're too close to the street. Get over here." I will never be one of those parents or grandparents who just wants my kids to be safe, my grandkids to be safe.
Amen.
We should care about everybody's kids. So as I was trying to convince one of the other mothers to run in another region, and the Holy Spirit just dropped it into my mind. I have such a love for the Word of God, not as much as I should. I'm always asking the Lord to help me to love his word and his ways more fully. But he dropped in my spirit. I said, David, when he was a shepherd boy and his father sent him to check on his brothers when they were at war with provisions and just to check to see how they were, he never intended on fighting Goliath.
Right.
But when he got there and no one else would, he did it, not because he wanted to, but because no one else would. And in my region, I have been looking for 8 months for a good, solid, strong candidate to run, because my heart has always been to get behind lots of good candidates and push to get them all elected. And I could not find one single person in my region that had a passion for our children and the issues, that would be faithful to show up at meetings and really get your head around what's going on and what they're doing, what we can do, what they're doing, what they shouldn't be doing, and push to make it change. And so I said, the Lord convicted me. Okay, you're trying to convince somebody else of this. What about you? And I'm like, okay, Lord, you're right. You're right. I cannot find anyone. I'm going to step up. And I can tell you this, once I make that commitment, and I have, I will not back down. I will knock on doors till the cows come home. I will get out there and I will speak truth. I will listen to people's hearts. See, the one thing that candidates miss, they're talking at people, but they're not having a conversation with people. They're not hearing people's hearts. There's probably 3 or 4 or 5 issues out there that I haven't even heard about yet that are important issues that somebody needs to get on it. Somebody needs to do something about it. And unless you're out there in the public and you're knocking doors and you're listening to people and you're sharing and you're informing the voter, you've got to inform. There's a lot of people out there have no clue what is going on at the school board level, in their schools, even where their children attend, have no clue what's going on.
And you're
So,
absolutely right, Sandra, because as Kristy can attest, when I jumped into the battle last
yeah,
year, um, I remember on election day when we were at the polls, a lot of the constituents, the people that were coming out, were saying to me that they were not aware of what was happening behind the doors of the West Shore School District and
yes,
the West Shore schools. Okay. It wasn't until I started putting the issues out there,
yes.
okay, through internet, through my big mouth, through
I've
flyers, you
seen
name
some
it,
of
we
that.
did it. Okay. And
Yeah,
Kristy, she's my partner in crime. She's my ride or die
yes,
girl.
yeah,
So we were out there putting the
mhm,
truth out there, and the
yeah,
eyes of the people are really open because with me, I understand the battle that you're going to have. You're going to have an uphill battle
mhm,
because, like
mhm,
me, you're very vocal and you have a passion, okay, for these kids, and you have a passion
mhm.
to get the truth out there and do the right thing. You're going to have an upward battle, mainly because of the Republican GOP. Okay. With me, if
Yeah,
Kristy remembers, their thing with me, and I got phone calls, and so did Kristy, that she needs to be quiet. She needs to be silenced. We don't want the issues out there. I'm like, well, try to shut me up. Good luck, because I put the issues
yeah,
out there. And
yes,
thank God, because we put the issues out there. Okay, is that a lot of people came out in numbers to vote a conservative board in. Christy, do you want to
yes,
add anything into
yes,
this?
Yeah, I mean, everything Mariana's saying is absolutely true. When I was at the polls with her, I mean, people were coming in and they were like bringing Mariana's card and talking about her
yeah,
videos, and they had no idea. But I have been doing this for going on 6 years, and
yes,
all I can tell you guys is God amazes me all the time, because I was always praying for somebody to come alongside that knew it was a spiritual battle. And here
yes,
comes here
yes,
comes Mariana. They didn't want me to
yes,
deal with Mariana, and as soon as I met Mariana, I was like, we were fast friends. I continued to pray, and then here comes Sandra. The first time I met Sandra was when Kevin was getting elected, and we both almost got murdered that day because we
yes,
were the only ones that were speaking. People were
yes,
growling at me,
yes,
hissing at
yes,
me, and I remember I didn't even know Sandra. I remember pointing at her because we were the only ones speaking. And to me,
yeah,
I will always
that's
fully
true.
back Sandra, because I know where her heart is. Somebody that will get
Okay.
up in front of all those people and speak for our children and take all those hits. They have my full support, and I know 100% that Sandra's not going to back down to the administration. I know that she will stand up and do the right thing, because she understands like where she's grounded at. So you
Mhm.
have my 100% support.
And Sandra has our full support, not only mine, but the Boiling Point support. So we're gonna just be upfront
Amen.
with that, okay? Because
Yeah,
we need a voice, we need a warrior, we need
yeah,
somebody with the spine of steel. Because what we're facing in the West
yes,
Shore School District, it really is spiritual and it is
Yes.
evil. Now, with that being stated, Sandra, um, what is the one thing that you are most passionate about that you would say that needs the most attention at the moment at the West Shore School District?
you know, while I think there are so many hot button issues, I think the one that has the best chance of shackling us is the finances. And let me amplify that out a little bit. With the finances, we're getting so boxed in. We're like over 15 million in debt. It appears as though we have a $3 million a year deficit. Now, I don't know that for sure, but that's how it appears in projections. Okay. A $3 million deficit per year. They have projects that they want to do. They have a 10 million or $7 to $10 million project they want to do. Then they got another project that I think would go to 10 to 15 million. We've got 2 of our elementary schools that have no air conditioning. We have one of our schools that I heard needs a new roof. They have renovations they want to do at Allen to expand at Allen Middle.
I forgot that. Yeah, that's true.
And they're putting all these housing complexes up all over the school district. So new schools at some point will have to be built. We have these 2 that were just built that they put up 2 in 1 year. Now, here's the thing, and they want to do full day kindergarten. And I feel that'll be the thing that gets sacrificed over their projects.
Of course.
They'll sacrifice the well-being of the children to build another pet project. That's my fear. But here's the thing. If we get boxed in any more financially, they will have the district by the throat, because they'll keep saying, really, there's nothing we could do. We don't have the money. We don't have the money to fight this. We don't have the money to fight that. And because they'll almost, my husband said, when Barack Obama was president, he said, honey, I think he's deliberately trying to bankrupt the nation. And I said, nah. He said, no, I feel like he's deliberately trying, because what happens when you're shipwrecked? You need saved, and you don't care who comes in a boat. You climb in that boat because they're coming, and they're the only ones coming.
Right.
And I'm afraid in the West Shore School District, if they put these shackles of debt on us any further where we cannot bail ourselves out, that they think we will have no choice but to jump into whatever boat comes down the river, and we'll be grateful for it, whoever saves us. We don't want to get to that point. We want to put the brakes on.
Big Daddy government, right?
Yes. We want to put the brakes on. We want to get a look better at this budget, where money is, what do we owe, to whom do we owe, what are the payment terms, okay? They won't even give me a breakdown of the furniture that was purchased for the schools, the new schools. And here's one for instance. If you or I or any one of us build a brand new home, right? Chances of us buying brand new furniture for every room in that home is pretty slim. You're going to get in that home first. You're going to use some of what you already have. Maybe you buy a new this or that because now you have a new room that you didn't have before. But you're going to want to let the dust settle in your finances.
Right.
They built 2 brand new schools. And to my knowledge, almost every piece of furniture in those 2 schools is brand spanking new.
Sandra, I was at the meeting, and actually it turned out to be a big argument because they were talking about getting these really nice sensory chairs. Okay. Like, in a perfect world, I would love for everybody to have a sensory chair. We have kids that can't read or write. We have kids that are destroying the bathroom. And I said, get a normal chair. You can't afford a swivel chair. We have kids that are ripping down the paper towels, writing Satan stuff all over the bathroom. You need, at this point, you should get a folding chair because you can't behave yourself in the classroom, So they did actually, the conservatives did strike that down, but I'm like thinking to myself,
well, they're getting that though. They're getting some of that now. Some of that's back in. Did you hear them talking about that in one of the meetings the other day?
No, this was like last year or the year before. The
other day, and I forget which meeting it was, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but they're talking about this building having this sensory hall, and this has this. Do you remember that?
No, yes, and you know what? I found out we were talking about that. You are correct. We were talking about that to have like a calm down room or whatever. I do believe that's not for the kids with special needs either. So we do need to check that.
Right.
And that's the whole thing. We need to start as a community questioning and getting on the board, because let's talk about these buildings. When these schools were planned, Okay. I'm not saying again that some of these schools we don't need. Okay. If the school needs to be shut
Yeah,
down and the new one
sure.
open because it's dangerous, most definitely. But everything has to be cost efficient. However,
Yes.
even when they started this project, okay, this plan, I think it was a 10-year plan. Correct me if I'm correct, Kristy, a
Yes.
10-year plan, okay, to build these schools, and the way they were going to fund it, and it's what we're seeing that they're doing now, is on the back of the taxpayers. And
That's
this was, mind you, when Brian Geiswhite, okay, was in precedent in the presidency position, because he was a failed president. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
everything that he did was on the
Yeah.
wrong side of everything. So it was his master plan and Todd Stoltz, okay, because anything that comes up with finances in any meeting, the reply is tax the people to the max. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the people
Mm-hmm.
need to start
Mm-hmm.
using their voice. The people need to start coming to these meetings. The people need to start, addressing them, sending emails, and also contacting our state reps if they have to, and make everybody that we need to make aware of what's happening in the West Shore School District, because we're allowing them to get away with it. We can't afford it anymore. Okay. Most of
right.
the people that I know, in my neighborhood, their taxes went up.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Oh
mean,
my.
way up this year. And it's going to go up, to
Mhm.
my understanding, next year, not as high, but it's going to go up next year also, because of this 10-year master plan. And a balanced budget, guys, does not mean, a balanced budget means a balanced budget.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
So
not
it does
balanced.
not, right. It does not mean we're going to balance it on the backs of the taxpayer, because it's
And
even
that doesn't take care
unconstitutional
of the
to pay to
debt.
taxes to the max.
Guys,
And
that's
that,
that's
go
a
ahead.
DEI balanced budget.
Yeah.
Social
And here's the
emotional
thing.
learning balanced budget.
What
Hmm.
after this year, it appears as though we'll be 18 million in debt. So even if you balance the budget next year, okay, where you have a neutral budget, right? You're still $18 million in debt. And the Keynesian economic theory is don't worry about debt, doesn't really matter. As long as you can service the debt, pay the interest, you're
Right.
good to go. That's Keynesian. That's what they've done in Washington. Okay. But here's the thing with um with the budget. The administration works or is under subjection to the board. We have supposedly a conservative leaning board, and they are not unified, and they are not working together, and they are not pushing the administration or backing them into a corner and putting their hands up and going, no, we're not going to do it. What's
Right.
happening is, what's happening is they seem to be getting stonewalled by the administration, and they either are taking bad advice, have no spine, or are inadequate to push back.
Right.
They're being stonewalled on policy. They're being stonewalled on spending. I have asked a couple of the different board members, and I don't need to name names, but here or there, hey, well, why is the administration? Well, that's just how the administration. And I'm like, but they work for you. They work for you and are accountable to you because you're accountable to the taxpayer. And there does not seem. So I would say, well, I would say my greatest um, focus right now is financing, but at the same time, you almost cannot inextricably decouple the getting a handle on this administration and
Right.
understanding what your power is as a board, and getting those board members to work together,
Yes.
and the reason I don't think that's effective, if you notice when they go to vote on things and they say any deliberation, there's almost no public deliberation.
Right.
And that's where the battle's being lost, because if one member will step up, have the courage to say, this isn't right, we can't afford this. Why are we doing it this way? Where's the study? Where are the facts? Where are my figures? I can't vote on this until. Do you mean to? And you have to say this too. I'm sure you guys all don't want to vote on something when you don't even have the figures in front of you.
Right.
I'm
See?
sure you don't want to be this irresponsible. I'm sure we as a board understand we're accountable to the taxpayer. And when we vote on something, that we should have the facts. See, those are the kind of
Ding, 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 ding.
yes, you cannot go into those meetings without saying that out loud. Truth, when it's spoken out loud, has power.
Right. So,
There's
Sandra,
power in that.
that is something, just like example, this last school board meeting, when they were having issues with the administration gaslighting them,
Yes.
that would have been where you stepped up and said something.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but the
And that's
thing
the
also
thing.
is, Sandra, I mean, sorry, I'm interjecting
Go
here, is
ahead.
that we're
No, go
also,
ahead.
this is another problem for the parents to know that we are having in the West Shore School District. We have been fighting for the longest about them silencing the community.
Yes.
Because once they become a school board member, okay, what they are being told is
Yep.
that they are to keep 30 feet away from the constituents. So basically, you know, a triangle, okay? So basically, the one that's supposed to be on the top of the constituents, okay, and our public servants in the bottom, they take that triangle and they reverse it. So the constituents on the bottom, you have
Mm-hmm.
no say, and everything is state agencies and the PBSA and
Union.
the GOP and the board members. So they're telling these board members to stay 30 feet
Mm-hmm.
away from the constituents. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
moment that we decide to speak, okay, now they're trying to silence us. So they
Yeah.
give us 3 minutes to speak. Okay, before it was
Four.
2.
Four.
Okay, 4. Well, they give us 4 minutes to speak. Okay, before it used to be 2 when Guy White
Mm-hmm.
was president. Half of the time when half of the time, especially when Guy White was president, they really weren't hearing what we were saying. They were just nodding their heads like
Right.
puppets in one ear out the other. Okay, and things remain the same. Now I hear, I don't know if I shared this with you, but now I hear that they want to give the school board another additional 2 to 3 minutes after the public speaks for them to correct whatever they feel that the public is saying that is misinformation or not factual. So what I
Mm.
think that's happening is because now more people are being vocal, okay, and it's on an issue of public record. They
Mm-hmm.
want to silence them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
and here's the thing, Mariana. That is so true. And there is a dynamic to that. I mean, there's a Overton window that you could move either direction with that. If I'm elected to the school board, okay, and I'm voting on an issue that I'm rock solid on, okay, and 70 people pow in that room and scream at me, and I'll get there 4 minutes of how wrong I am, and you're terrible, and you're terrible, and you're terrible. That I'm not going to listen to. But I will have already done the work of getting out in the community and finding out where the constituency as a whole is.
Yeah.
Okay. And listening to the heart of the taxpayer in general, not activist people who are really good at getting on Facebook and getting
That's what
40
they are.
people or 50 people to show up in a room or get the news to show up. And, the news always gives a certain side.
Fake.
All these opinions are my own. But they will give the opposite side of an issue that all the time in the world, and then a 10-second soundbite of a conservative viewpoint. So there is a truth to that. But let me tell you why they want to do that, Mariana. Because when Kristy gets up to speak, when you get up to speak, when I get up to speak, and we speak truth, and as they say, truth to power. But as we speak truth out loud, it has weight, and it angers them. Because they think, oh my gosh, if they knew they were right, listen, we know we're right, so we don't care. We don't care. You can say anything you want about me. You can say she's a terrible person, and I go, okay. You can say, oh, she just cares about herself, and I go, okay. I don't care because I know the truth. You see,
Yeah.
They're getting angry and they're strategizing because what the parents are doing is working. Our voices matter, and they know it.
Yeah,
You guys are going home and you're going online and you're clipping clips and you're showing the public what's going on in these meetings. You're showing what they said, and then you show some facts as to why that's not true. And they want to shut that down. Now,
they've already tried.
yes, I know. You guys
Yes,
have
they
been
have.
in internet prison from time to time and all of that. But that's okay. That's okay, because you know what? God told us to fight for what we believe in. And there's a scripture that says line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there. But we're building something here. And we're not doing a prefab home that's just going to fit together in 1 week, where it's an empty field 1 week, and a week later somebody brings in this prefab home, sets it on the property, and Bob's your uncle. We are building a solid skyscraper, and it's going to take a while, and it's going to take a lot of dedication, a lot of prayer. Yes, this is a spiritual battle.
Right.
This is absolutely good against evil. You cannot deny that when people want to cut off healthy body parts of children, that is evil. You cannot deny when a young lady goes into a bathroom, like happened in Virginia, and got raped, and then they move a student to another school to keep it quiet, and then a girl gets raped at that school, and then when the father shows up at a meeting to protest, why did you sweep this under the rug? My daughter was a victim unnecessarily. They haul him out and arrest him. You cannot deny that that's evil. You can't. So it is good against evil. The good news is this: we read the end of the book. We win. We win.
We already won.
We just have to hold the line. We have to fight. We have to take up our cross today and fight. Not worry about tomorrow. We need to certainly plan and strategize and know that we got to move this ball down the court. We have got to work together as a team, and we've got to move this ball down the court, and we can do it. Because here's the thing. I heard a pastor say years ago, I must have been about 27, 28 years old. And he said this: a mature Christian doesn't care who gets the credit. Now you think about that. We can work together as a team, and we don't care if someone says, oh, Mariana's last statement is the reason they voted this way, or Sandra or Kristi's when Kristi got up, we couldn't care less. We want them to vote the right way. And we will keep at it, and we will keep at it until we know we have left nothing on the field. We will fight. Listen, and I said in that one meeting, with all that is within us, we will fight for our children's safety and well-being and education. Forget all the woke nonsense garbage. Where the heck is the reading, writing, and arithmetic at?
Feelings.
Yes.
We've got lots of feelings and padded rooms.
Yes.
And we saw the PSSA scores, a week ago, and they hate when I say this. They were clapping, hey, and I'm like, what are we clapping about? We're the head of the dummies. That's what we're clapping about. So they get upset when I say it, but it's true. Now, you said something that I want to segue into. Okay, you know that the West Shore School District has been having an issue with violence in their schools. Okay,
Yes.
there has been violence. Kids are being picked on. Kids are being beaten up. I know of children that have winded up in the ER.
Yes.
As a candidate, what is your view, okay, of how the school district should handle this? Because parents have spoken to the school board, and we have various clips that we can show the public, okay, about their kids being beat up. And the reply that comes back is that, well, we as school board members, we cannot intercede because that's totally the administration. The administration is stopping us. So I'm sorry, we can help you. So if a parent goes to a board member, how are you going to tell me that they can't help this parent? In the meanwhile, we have unringed violence in our schools, although administration says this is not happening. Kristi, you and I know that it is. Okay, there have been guns in the school. There's been threats of shooting. There's been BB guns. Okay, remember that child that I told you that the bully was making threats to shoot him in the head? Well, what's not being said is that the bully came with a BB gun to the school, and the intention was to put the BB gun in the child's ear, hold him down, and shoot. That can kill a child. Okay.
Yes.
So what do we do? What is your suggestion or maybe remedy to this situation?
Okay. So you sort of already discussed it. It is time for the board to tell the administration or develop the policy. This business that the policy has to come from the administration first in order for malarkey. They need to get to the Independence Law Center. They should be over there every week finding out what their rights are, what the strategy is to get a hold of this. Secondly, transparency. The liberal public has been accusing the school board members of not being transparent. But try to get information out of this administration. You've got to write 5 right to knows until you get the wording exactly the way it needs to be before they will give you half of a paper with half redactions. Okay. You got to get past that. Thirdly, and this is where, and we would have to see the Independence Law Center and see how this would go. I know we have some resource officers. I know some of us parents have talked about we want metal detectors at the entrances of our schools. We should also have a better reporting system for the students, because some of the ones that have been thwarted, some of these violent acts that have been thwarted, is because a student stepped up and said, hey, so-and-so told me this. But we have to protect those reporting systems. And then the last one is 1 or 2 of the school districts got the parents, particularly the fathers, who were former military, retired law enforcement, to get together like a team of volunteer shifts. And there are certain times during the day that are more critical than others, when students are arriving, at the lunch hour, when students have more free movement through the school, and at the end of the day. And these fathers, just like you see at churches where you see volunteer security, my son is one of them. My son is a military police officer for the Army National Guard here in Pennsylvania. And he takes a shift at his church pretty regular on Sunday mornings, where they patrol the parking lot. They're in the lobby. They check the other entrances to make sure they're secure. And we should have volunteer. And as those fathers develop relationships, and they can be mothers too if they're well trained, developing relationships in that school. See, teachers are so busy trying to get so much done. Administrators, janitors, these adults, lunch folks are all busy doing something, and they don't have time. How many times have you walked in a place and you look at someone and you can tell something isn't right? I've already walked up to somebody in a restaurant because I've seen bruises, and I've said, are you okay? And she would say to me, yes, he's been put away. I'm being protected now. And there have to be people in these schools, and I think they ought to be volunteer parents who are not bound by the administration. You can't say this, you can't do this. Who can look into the eyes of these children, and you will see something going on that somebody who's busy doesn't. Mm-hmm. And it can be done. There are schools that are doing it, where they're coming in, and you certainly, you'd have to implement a policy. You'd have to implement procedures. You would have to implement training, and it would have to be followed up on. Perhaps even a committee that would be created at the school board level that would track and monitor and implement and improve all of this. But our children, so many of them, I see them get off the bus. Your heart breaks. I can remember when I used to drop my daughter off here at Newberry. I used to drop her off often at school, and you'd see a little kid get off the bus in their PJs, inside out, little snow boots on in the spring, and they're on the wrong feet. Her hair's not combed, and she's dragging a half a backpack. And you know who put that kid on the bus. She put herself on the bus. And we cannot be everybody's everything. But when it comes to violence in schools, if you had parent monitors, remember when we had hall monitors back in our day? We had someone with a little fake badge, and they got to monitor the hallway. I was a crossing guard in the Mechanicsburg School District, where I walked kindergartners to and from, the crosswalks.
I could see that.
And we had student monitor, and maybe that would be part of the answers. But here's the thing. My kids, I had a rule. If I find out that you're even laughing when someone's being made fun of, I'll fire you up. My children were not even allowed to laugh. And my children would come home and tell me, and I'd go into the school and I'd say, hey, my son told me this kid's being bullied. This is who's doing it, and you better do something about it. And I'd go in, and I'd go into a principal. I didn't tell the janitor or the lunch lady. I wanted to talk to the principal, and I wanted it taken care of. And perhaps we should have a parent post board on, I think the what is it, the real the real support system for the West Shore School District website. Is it the, what's it called, Kristi or Mariana?
Which are you talking about our thing?
Yes, yes. I don't want
Which,
to get the name wrong and say the bad one.
oh,
Oh, you
yeah,
I'm
West
drawing
Shore
a blank.
Parents United.
yes,
West
yes.
Shore Parents United.
It's
Okay.
it's
Mhm.
so close to the other one. We
Yes,
had our
yes.
name first.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if we had a reporting board on there and we really begin to push that out, parents, if you're having trouble, because here's the thing, you feel like you're the voice crying in the wilderness, but all of a sudden you find out that 3 or 4 or 5 other parents' kids are being bullied by that same kid.
Yeah.
And here's something I told, and this is probably on the complete opposite spectrum. When my son was in 9th grade at Redland, there was a kid really picking on him. And he said, Mom, this kid just, he won't leave me alone. I said, Joshua, I said, that kid probably has a horrible home life. I said, invite him to church. He went, are you kidding me? I said, invite him to church. He invited the kid to church, and we went and picked the kid up, and we took the kid to church with us, and they became friends. And one night, the kid wanted to sleep over our house after church. They were having off school the next day. So when we drove him home, he went into the house to ask permission, and Josh went with him. Had never been in the kid's home. It was over here at the townhouses near where I live. And he walked in the door, and the kid's mother's boyfriend was sleeping on the sofa, and he said to the kid, what are you doing? Where are you going? He said, I'm going up to ask Mom if I can sleep over at Josh's house. And this boyfriend went off on this young man, started screaming at him, calling him every filthy name in the book. You're not going to. Josh will come out to the car after a couple minutes, clearly traumatized and devastated, and got in the car, and he sat there for a couple minutes till he could even tell me what just happened. And he got a clear picture of how this young man lived and why he was the way he was. Now, you can't condone behavior because somebody's a victim. Listen, a lot of child molesters, adult child molesters, were molested as children. We know that. But you don't say, well, he was molested as a kid, so now we understand why he molested 50 kids. So you can't go there. But you have to begin to understand. And perhaps that young man who is the bully, if these parents are well trained, and I'm not talking about phony psychology, and I'm talking about real heart-to-heart training, can come alongside these boys as mentors, take them under their wing. There are so many times, you can lift somebody out of that if you care. And I've often said that when we've pastored at different churches, and a lot of times they wanted to bring in all these big programs. And remember this one little country church where my husband was the associate pastor, and they brought in this young college age student who had just graduated college and had been out for like maybe 2 years or something. And she wanted to order this curriculum that was something like $7,000 Sunday school curriculum for kids. And this was going to grow the program and blah, blah, blah. And I could not believe that this church that had almost no money was considering spending $6,000. And then she also, fresh out of college, hadn't even had her own family, wanted to mentor the parents. How you're going to do that when you've never been one? So anyways, I said to them, I said, listen, Jesus never rode into town with the circus. And what a kid wants to see when they walk into church, they want someone to look them in the eye, and they want that person to smile and be glad that they're there. That's what they want. I'm not saying a pizza party for the youth is wrong. But when you're like, Jesus never said, okay, let's put on a carnival, and once we get there, then I'm going to slip the gospel in. Those people followed him for days, starving with no food, to where he had to send the disciples to get food, and then he had to bless it and multiply, because those people were willing to follow him and listen to that message. Yeah. And risk their own well-being because they were so hungry for the love that he was speaking. And these children are craving this. And if we could find a volunteer parent program that would minister and meet needs. And I know there are after school programs. I know there's one in New Cumberland. Are you aware of that one where the kids can go after school if they're latchkey? It's a 501c3. She'll do homework with them. She has volunteers that come in. They feed them. It's an
Oh, is that
incredible.
what's it called? That
The Mattered
It's
House?
yes.
what is it?
Is it the Mattered House?
It could no. That's a home. No, this is for kids that get bused there. And this is an
Okay.
after school program. She came and spoke at our township meeting one night. And you know what? The three of us should go visit that. The three of us
Yeah.
should go visit that because they're West Shore School District children.
I would like to. Yeah, I would like to know.
And
Definitely.
it's Christian based. It's Christian
Cool.
based.
Now,
So
I'm going to ask you, I'm
go
sorry,
ahead. Go ahead.
but you're saying that, and I like what you're saying. Okay, so you already know we have a violent situation. That's going to lead me into this
Yes.
other question because I have to ask this question. We find more often than not in our meetings that members of our school board are coming down on cyber school parents and cyber school children. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And we are losing money. We're losing money. And we are losing money.
Yeah.
Okay. We are
Yeah.
losing money.
Wonder why.
Now,
Yeah.
what is your solution to this situation? Or what would you suggest for us to be able to stop this bleeding? Because we know, okay, if
Mhm.
we're going to really be
Mhm.
honest, that the
Mhm.
reason these parents are putting their kids into the cyber school is because, like you stated, the grades are low, the bullying. Some kids are not comfortable in a school that's overheated. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What is your first of all, what is your position on parents' choice? Okay. And what do
Mhm.
you think is the solution to this cyber school situation?
Okay. Well, I did it. I did it. From time to time, I cyber schooled my children through Commonwealth Connections Academy. CCA is what it was called at the time. And my oldest son was completely maintenance free, stayed in the public school system from kindergarten to 12th grade, and then went on to higher education. And then my three other children intermittently would cyber school, back in the public, back out. If they went in at the beginning of the year, they had to stay in. If they started cyber school at the beginning of the year, they had to stay in. So that was my rule. But let me flip the question this way. If there's two restaurants, there's Joe's restaurant and there's Mike's restaurant. And Mike's restaurant, his food's better. His food's just better. Okay. And Joe comes to the township and says, you have to make those people stop eating at Mike's. I think I should have at least as many customers as Mike. And you need to make those people come to Joe's because it's not fair. Okay. What would you say to Joe? Make a better meal, make a better product. And our school isn't doing it. Our school isn't meeting the needs. And they weren't for mine. I had a ninth grade student that they were given, he was special learning, our IEP, and they were giving him fourth grade English and math worksheets in ninth grade at Redland. And my son come home and said, Mom, do they think I'm stupid? And when I called the teacher to complain, she said, but he's getting A's. Like, what are you complaining about? He's getting A's. I pulled him out and cyber schooled him. And Commonwealth Connections Academy tutored him in person and brought him up to grade level, and it didn't cost me a dime. Now, they got my taxpayer money, but it didn't cost me a dime. Now, at this point, they are failing our students. Not every student. There are some students that are like my oldest son was self-taught. He was 4 years old. We'd pass a billboard and he would tell me what it said. And I would say, what? And he'd say it again. And he would say, that's what that sign said. I never taught him how to read. He was self-taught in so many things. But for the struggling students, there has to be an option. And for the parent, listen, I have warned them at the school board level, go ahead, keep shutting the parents out of things. Keep quitting hearing their voices. Quit making that, or keep making them feel like they have no voice and no choice and that they must submit to you. And watch what they do. Watch what they do. Now, they are losing, apparently, and I don't know all the figures, that there are some loopholes where some of these cyber schools are charging supposedly exorbitant amount of fees for some of their special services. But you look at the special services that we all have. Now, let me ask you this. Do either one of you know why we have 2 full-time occupational therapists that work at the ACE building? Can either one of you tell me why we
Nope.
have 2 full-time, somebody needs to look into that, okay? Full-time occupational therapists that work at the ACE building, okay? Nobody wants to tell me what they do and why they do it. So if these cyber schools, if West Shore is providing special services like paying for counseling, look at what we're paying for. If the student doesn't have the money for it, where the school steps up and pays for it. Are these cyber schools under the same demand, but maybe they cannot get as pushy a contracts because they're just a little old cyber school and they're not a powerful school district. So maybe that's where some of those costs are coming in. I don't know. I've never really delved into. Listen, our hair's been on fire trying to get these people to not sell our children down the pike here. When we go into, we're battling so many everyday issues. I've really not had the time to delve into the cyber school thing. But we need to start to understand what special services are we paying for in the West Shore School District. I would gather to say we don't even begin to know some of the things that are being paid for out of the taxpayer money at the West Shore School District.
Okay, and that's correct. You're absolutely correct. And that brings me to my next topic. I'm gonna say a word, and you tell me what you feel that needs to be done in the West Shore School District to accomplish this. Okay, here's
Okay.
the word: transparency.
I think the administration needs to be transparent. I think that the school directors need to go to Independence Law Center and have them review how our administration is stonewalling them. And they need to find out what laws, what their power is. And I've said this in an open meeting. You need to find out the power that you have. And if you have to put policy in place to do this, or you just have to put your foot down and say, we know the law. But they need, it's not the school board members in and of themselves that is entirely not transparent. It's the administration.
Can you guys
try
hear
to
me?
get some information out of them. Go ahead. Right? Go to Independence Law Center
Correct.
and find out what the power is of the, maybe even the parents should be doing this. Maybe we as parents, I have called them once or twice. I've not really gotten a healthy response back, but maybe we should be getting
Well,
a team of parents.
I contacted them. Actually, my husband contacted them when, again, under the leadership of Brian Geiswhite, they were trying to silence the
Lack of leadership.
Oh, they were actually saying that the kids could not pray in graduations and before sports. Do you remember that, Kristy?
Yes.
So, yes, and that made the media, and they sent a letter to the booster presidents saying that there was a law that came down, and the law never came down. That we were no longer
Guys,
going
can you
to
hear me?
allow.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
we were not going to allow the students to pray, in graduations nor before sports. And the Independence Law Center got involved, sent them a letter, and contacted the PA Department of Education because we knew that was never a law, and they quickly rescinded on that. Okay. Now I have another topic that I've been asked to ask you about. Okay.
Okay.
So you gave us the answer on transparency. All right, ready for this one?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to use the term they use, okay?
Yep.
Graphic novels in our schools. Go for it.
Pornography. So here's the thing. If I go up to a 4th grader and I say to this 4th grader, this is how oral sex is, this is how, I'm getting arrested.
Correct.
I'm getting arrested. But these teachers and these librarians and through these books are getting away with it. And it ought not to be.
Amen.
And I know that there is a struggle to get into these libraries on a mass scale and find out what the heck's in there. And what is the process of saying this book must be stricken? You can call it whatever you want, banned. Pornography needs to be banned. Graphic sexual content needs to be banned. And listen, if I can go to jail and I don't use foul language, but if my fourth grader walks up to the principal and uses the 4-letter word, that kid's getting reprimanded, suspended, whatever in sixth grade. If you go up to the principal and you say something like, "Hey, sexy, such and such," and you repeat a line that's out of one of these books, you're getting reprimanded. But yet they're shoving this stuff in our kids' faces, and
Now,
they're
saying that,
encouraging them.
saying what you just said, okay? Now, you
Yeah.
know how I started the battle in this, okay? Was because we
Yes.
found the book Gender Queer and This Book is Gay in Cedar Cliff. And the president at the time was Brian Geiswhite. Okay, and within 24 hours, Brian Geiswhite and Todd Stoltz had me and my husband labeled as the Cumberland County extremist parents. Okay,
Yeah.
now
Well,
our
wear that badge
school,
with honor.
right?
Wear
Oh
that
yeah,
badge with
I
honor.
do, because we need to protect our kids. Now, in 2 meetings back, we were discussing the library policy 109. Okay,
Yes.
in which they have given the authority to toss those in the librarian and whatever staff member or student that they choose, okay, to choose these books, and ultimately the approval has to go through toss those. All that the West Shore board members are going to do is purchase it. Okay, now, keeping in consideration, okay, that, and I believe that a lot of the problems that we have in the West Shore has to do with the administration, okay, and with the
Yes.
administrator that we
Yes.
have. So, keeping in
Yes.
mind that this administrator has lied to the media, has gaslit the community and the parents to believe that this is not happening in the West Shore School District. And so there, Brian Geiswhite, okay, when we brought the situation to his attention that this is not happening in the community, how is it, when I'm asking myself, basically, how is it that we should be, or should be required to trust an administrator that has such a bad record on hiding the fact that this is happening in the West Shore School District? Furthermore, one of the parents this week, I don't know if you saw it on my page or not, one of the parents was in Cedar Cliff
Mm.
this week
Yes.
and
Yes.
took a picture
I saw it.
of these
You should.
books that are still in Cedar Cliff High School. And
I
she
saw that.
posted everywhere, okay?
Yeah.
But these things don't happen in the West Shore School District. So
No.
the parents were requesting for a 30-day review. Okay, we did a job form and we submitted it to the school board members, requesting, and stating we do not trust this administrator because of his past record. Okay, so we are requesting a link of the books that they're thinking of approving for the parents to review for 30 days. And if the parents have a question, they can, or they should be allowed to question the administration and the board members, okay, and bring up their concern. That was not considered, that was denied, and they went ahead and passed policy 109 without considering the voice of the parents. What do you think, or what will you suggest that they do if you become one of our board members?
Well, let me tell you two things. First of all, we also need to understand the distinction between books that are donated and books that are purchased.
Whoa, boom,
I
ding,
think
ding, ding.
I think the books that they're talking about approval and blah 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 are books that are purchased with taxpayer dollars. When you look at something like the West Shore Foundation
Whoa,
and
whoa.
these woke organizations that deliver gleefully
They could
this
come in like
this pornography and donate it to the school board, that does not have the same level of scrutiny. Good luck even finding out where it came from
Do
once
you
it's
think
in the
we should
library.
make a policy with that?
I do. So, but here's the thing that the school boards aren't doing. When they say, is there any deliberation on this? Had I been on the school board, I would have said, Dr. Stoltz, you have been on the record. And I would start quoting things he has said in the meeting. You said that this isn't in. Did you see this picture from this parent? Did you? I've had 3 parents email me this week with this book, this book, this book, with this line, and this line. Dr. Stoltz, I can't even read this book out loud in this meeting
Well,
without
you need to go
being
home and do your homework. That's what I was told about a book.
right, right. But see, they're not deliberating in those open meetings.
Right.
Imagine clipping that clip and putting it on the internet all day long. Imagine it going viral.
That's awesome.
If someone who you have to keep your temper. You can't devolve into screaming and name calling. You must pace yourself. You must articulate yourself. You have to stay on topic. And the one thing you cannot do is take personal pot shots, because it's not, I've quoted The Godfather before. It's not personal. This is the business of our children. This is just business. It's just business. And sales, they teach you, it's just a conversation. That's all it is a conversation. So you have to say, Dr. Stoltz, you said on October 17th in 2023 this.
Right.
You said this, and you have to be willing. I don't know why entirely they don't do this. And I think one of them is intimidation. And I think somebody's strategy in these meetings that I think are telling them, don't really say anything, just vote the way you're going to vote. You just, you don't want to like get the parents stirred up. Yeah, you do. The voters need to understand and articulate why you're doing what you're doing, but also the other members need to be put on notice before that vote. Go ahead and vote this way, because we're going to clip this and we're going to show this all over town that you guys voted for pornography in our libraries, that you guys, we're going to take clippings. I think legally you can do but so many words in a clip, and you can duplicate it. And yes, absolutely. And go ahead.
Let me interject. Now, this is one of the books. I was looking for the other one, which is actually a little bit worse than this one because it's more graphic. It has more graphic. But this is one of the books that I found in the Cedar Cliff High School library. Okay. And they told me this is not happening. This book was actually hidden after we spoke up about it. It was hidden in a classroom, into Catherine Yo's classroom. But I want to show you what really disturbed me about the book. The book in itself is disturbing. Okay. So it's a manual, okay, of how to come out and whatever. But in the back, it has like a little glossary of terms, okay? So I'm here in the library, okay, looking at this thing. And let me read to you a little bit of the glossary if you will allow me. Okay, no, it's called the cheat sheets. Okay, it's a cheat sheet for the kids, okay, of terms. So you guys ready? Can I read this? Okay. Bisexual, a person who fancies both man and woman. Blowjob. Oral sex on the guy. Bottom passive. Now, bottom passive, that is a term used in the BDSM society. Okay. Bottom passive, being the partner who receives during sex. Cisgender, the sex you are assigned at birth. Clitoris. Coming out. Come. Common slang language term for semen or to orgasm. It talks about the term for oral sex on girls that I can't pronounce it because I'm Spanish, right? Dildo, a sex toy. A dildo, a sex toy. Dom, the dominant partner during sex. Yeah. So this is a fellatio, fancy term for oral sex on a dude. So this is the book that has been one of the books that has been found in the Cedar Cliff Library, and it's still there. I have students in Cedar Cliff that know me, that tell me the book is still there. And the teachers, okay, and Miss Catherine Yo is one of those teachers that she actually encourages the children to read this trash. And she went as far as to say that God, if for those who are Christians, this is what she said to the class, okay, get this, that God is a God of acceptance. God is a God of love, and you cannot consider yourself a Christian if you don't accept, these kind of lifestyles. Okay.
Right.
So this is what I mean, people, and this is what we're talking about: getting this, which is inappropriate.
Right.
Inappropriate. okay, out of the
So
schools. And if you look at the other one, gender queer, it's worse.
yeah. So let me say this. I think this could be an honest solution, and we could look at if I get on the board, or even to pressure the board that's there currently, work with the Independence Law Center. This would be a great policy adjustment. So you remember the Dewey Decimal System when we would walk in the library and they would have those beautiful when then you would pull the little thing out and that's how you would find the book. That's not how you find a book anymore in the library. You find the book in the computer. Okay. When you walk in and you say, I want the gender queer, they go right to the computer screen. Why isn't that computer catalog available to the parents or even to the students outside of the school?
It
Everything else.
actually is, Sandra. It's
Now, but
available to
wait.
the parents. Okay.
So,
But there's
but
two things. There's two things. There's two things. Number one, you said something key. Okay. Donated books.
that's where I'm going.
Donated books,
So, but the
right.
new policy is that no book shall be in that library that is not on that catalog list that is available
Right.
to the parents. Now,
Correct.
then you do a reprimand policy for the librarian where like a 3 strikes you're out. And first time it happens this, the second time it happens this, and the third time dismissal. Now I know you would have a fight with the unions, but there's that school board out, and we really need to study this out in Colorado of all places that was found a way to get rid of the teachers union in their district. And perhaps
Yeah.
that day is coming. Perhaps God is going to do some really
There'll be
amazing things
lots of
here. That day is coming.
screaming then.
But imagine if you could, shouldn't we at least be, wouldn't you rather get up to heaven and God say, boy, you kept just trying to get everything done, instead of God saying, why didn't you just try? Well, Lord, we didn't think we would really get anywhere. So we just threw our hands up and just whined about it a little bit.
Nah, we
So
want to try.
I do think that there should be an open catalog to the parents of every book in that library. If a library book is found in that library that is not on that catalog, that is open to the parents, then there needs to be a reprimand, a written reprimand, and maybe a 1, 2, and a 3 strikes you're out. There
Now,
has
I
to
don't
be
know if
control.
you are aware of this, okay? I believe I spoke to Kristy about this on an occasion. So one of the things that they came at us, right, to me and Casey when we brought this to the board, was that, oh, that book is not in the school catalog. Of course it's not, because it probably was one of those donated books, okay, that's coming in. However, when you go online, okay, and you go on the website, on the district website, and you find the school, and you can actually go through a library catalog there, and you type in a book, okay, anything that they have there will come out. And even if you put LGBTQ, if you put pride, drag queen, anything that they have on the shelves that they find not offensive will come out. But if you look to the right on the screen, there's another little catalog there. And if you read it, it says for graphic novels. Now, for that one, I think it's called Mac and View. For that one, you need a password, a username and
Ah,
password to get in it. Okay, so we the parents don't have that. They will give it to the child. So we will have to go through this process, according to what I'm reading, to see if a librarian will allow us to have a username or password to see what's in there. And I believe on that Mac and View, that's where they're hiding a lot of this what they call graphic novels, which is actually porn. So if you look
if
on the
you
website, you'll find it.
Maybe you should partner more with, and I've wanted to delve into what he's doing. Kirk Cameron is doing some really amazing activism work with librarians. He has been able to decouple several libraries, public libraries, from not the Scholastic, which is also very wicked. What's the other one? Like the American Association of Libraries or whatever?
American Library Association,
Yes,
ALA.
there. He has been able to decouple several public libraries from that
Wow.
system, and he works on this actively. And perhaps it would be good to see what resources would be available through him, how they did it, whatever. Work with the Independence Law Center. We have to find the resources. I know that Moms for Liberty. I think Kristy, you were talking about the Moms of America,
Yes,
and you were going to
Mariana's
see.
actually a member.
Oh, okay. and see, what resources. And really, my husband, when we did ministry for years together, one of his strongest philosophies was we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So we would develop a resource file. So when someone would come in our church and wanted services, and I believe these churches far too often become social services.
Right.
And all of a sudden they become, so when they come in and would ask for food, we would say, oh, we'd pull out a file. Oh, there's a food bank here, a food bank here, and a food bank here. They'd come in and they said they need housing. Oh, there's Carlisle Cares, there's Bethesda Mission, there's the Salvation Army. And we would have the pamphlets we could give them right in there. Sometimes we gave them a ride to a facility. We would have people come in and ask for this and ask for that. And we were all about the resources of things that were already in the community instead of trying to reinvent the wheel ourselves. And
Right.
so for us, and I know you guys have done a lot of this because you guys have been in this battle for a long time, but maybe we need to get better at finding out who has what resources, like Kirk Cameron, what he's doing. And I'll tell you, I know people that work in our school district that don't want what Scholastic brings in. They don't want our kids being, some of this stuff that the parents are buying, they don't even know what they're buying at these book fairs and stuff. They don't even, you put a cute little cartoon. The philosophy is everything. You look at the cereal commercials 20 years ago. Dad was a dumb doofus. Mom was kind of smart, but the kids were so much smarter. And I have been saying for years, I don't like that. Then all the kids shows, Dad was a doofus. Mom was kind of pretty smart, but the kids were so much smarter. And that little bit of just that little bit of leaven that crept in and leavened the whole loaf.
Wow, yeah.
In these books, sometimes it's not, especially at the lower grade levels, it's not open porn, but they're slipping in that leaven. And I've had a couple
normalizing.
Couple teachers tell me they don't like what they see at these Scholastic book fairs, and these parents come in. And the thing is that nobody else has that system in place where they'll bring in good books. Now, Kirk Cameron's starting to build, he has his Brave Books, which is a book club, books, and they're all based on Christian principles, morals, loving America, loving God, that kind of thing. It's a beautiful system, but it's not built out like the Scholastic is, where you can put on a whole book fair, because Scholastics has posters and all kinds of stuff, But that thing is wicked, Scholastics.
I have another question for you. And if Kristy, you have any questions, jump in. Now, these are questions that parents have had, okay? What is your view on the Pledge of Allegiance being stated or said in school?
But you better sit down for this one.
I'm sitting.
I say the Pledge of Allegiance out of honor for what people feel it means today. But when they first brought the Pledge of Allegiance to America, to our schools, it was a ploy. It was a communist ploy. In Russia, with the communism, the term Mother Russia was drilled into the children's head because they wanted the children to begin to see their loyalty to their country above their loyalty to the parents. So when the communism started to creep into our education system, they developed that pledge to get the children to pledge allegiance to the flag and to the United States of America. That in to pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, was added years later to appease the parents that knew it was a bad thing, that the children's hearts were being trained to be Mother Russia, Mother America, above. See, because listen, how do we say it? God, family, country. Okay. Now we know country, family kind of blends together because, how we raise our kids. If you look at in Mao's revolution in China, he got the children to begin to tattletale on their parents. Through the school system, what's mommy and daddy saying at home, and children would tell on their parents, and their parents would be
drunk. Now you're talking about the mental health evaluation.
The Mao's revolution. So getting the children to pledge allegiance, so I get the philosophy now. What it kind of seems to have blossomed into, I'm okay with. I would never want to harm anybody by disrespecting that, But I pledge allegiance to Jesus Christ. Uh, you remember the one Christian songs? I pledge allegiance to the Lamb. You remember that Christian song, To the
No, I
Lamb?
never heard it.
Oh my gosh, I
I'm
forget
gonna
the
look it
guy's.
up.
Yes, it's a beautiful song. So that's really, if you think about it, right? Who is your allegiance to first? Jesus Christ. Okay.
That's
And
right.
then God tells you your husband should be first, and
Every
it's
day.
your husband and wife, and then your children, and then your community.
For
That's
real.
how that goes biblically. But I do think it should be said. I do think because of what it stands for now in the nation, but really, we really want our children to their hearts. Remember, God said in the Old Testament at the end that he would turn the hearts of the children to the fathers and the hearts of the fathers to the children. We want our children's hearts to be turned back to their parents, not to be. You look how many trans kids are divided from the parents to the governing body of the school, to the governing body of the nation when we
Amen.
had a different president. Turn your
Amen.
heart from your parent. Your allegiance is to your government. And
Right.
that's kind of what you're saying in that pledge. Nowhere do you say, I pledge allegiance to my family, to my parents, to obey my parents. God, what's the greatest, with the first commandment with the promise is to obey your parents. Nowhere in there does it say obey your country in the 10 commandments, right? So, however, what it stands for now, and the Patriots, listen, I would never kneel. I get furious. I quit watching any football, the little bit I did watch, which would only be once the nachos are gone, so was I. But when they started kneeling, I used to buy, if I was at a yard sale and I saw a Pittsburgh Steelers shirt, my one sister was always a big Pittsburgh Steelers, I would buy it and give it to her, whatever. If it was a little knick-knack or something and it was at a yard sale for. But once the NFL players started kneeling, I'm like, I won't even buy a knick-knack at a yard sale. No, thank you.
Right
And
now, I got
so
another question.
go ahead.
Sorry. So I think I know your answer to this one. What is your position on parental rights?
Are you kidding? That is one of my strongest. Listen, no one in ministry. Let me preface it with this. In ministry, I learned very early on, you never come between a parent and a child. If that child reaches out to you, you're teaching Sunday school, and that child starts going, yeah, mommy and daddy were fighting on the way to church. And I go, you don't go, oh, what were they saying? Why were they, who was right? Oh, your father should have never said that to your mother. You say, oh, you know what? Why don't we pray? Why don't we pray that God helped mommy and daddy? You turn that around. You never step between a parent and a child. Now, with the school system, with a communist regime, they will try to separate the heart of the child from the parent, but also the parent's right from the child. It takes a village to raise a kid. No, it doesn't. It takes a God-loving, fearing mom and dad to raise a kid. And then if mom and dad die, then the family steps in. If the family's not there, then it's the Good Samaritan. That's biblical. But with the schools, I think that's one of the, and listen, when they brought up the cyber school, we'll go back to that. I said to them when they were talking about some of their policies, I said, go ahead and do it. And you watch how many you lose to the cyber schools. You go right ahead. My one granddaughter, my daughter, they were talking about doing this or that at a school. And my daughter said, you watch. I'll homeschool my kids so fast it'll make their head spin. They will lose parents in droves if they keep pushing these parents. Because, and I've said this in a meeting, our children are everything to us. We will give our lives for our children and our grandchildren. You are not going to tell us that we can or we can't, or we need to mind our business, or they're your children, not our children. No. And see, that's where out in the big cities, they began to bring all these health services into the school. Because now all of this was controlled by the school, and mommy and daddy were just an afterthought. You know, you need a dentist. Oh, we can take care of that. Oh, you need a nurse. We can take it. Oh, you need psychological care. You need occupational therapy or physical therapy. We can take care of that. All of a sudden, everything that child needs is in the nucleus of the school. No, it's in the nucleus of the family. Good luck with that. If they keep pushing this, ripping away parents' rights, tearing down those parents' rights, sneaking behind parents' backs, they will lose, and rightly so, droves of children to these cyber schools.
There already
Good
are.
luck. Good luck.
Yes,
Okay,
they already
boys
are.
in boys in women's bathroom and girls in boys' bathroom.
Listen, on election day, this was the one issue. And let me tell you something. These fathers were fired up when I said, "Hey, I'm trying to get rid of our gender neutral bathrooms at our high schools. You want to sign my clipboard here? Give me your name, your email address, or phone number. I'll keep you in the loop. We're trying to find good candidates. I'll let you know who the good candidates are." They'd ripped the clipboard out of my hand. Even though we were all so sick of the emails and the text messages from the campaigns, they didn't care. They had never seen me before, and they were writing theirs. And the wife would grab it out of his hand, and she'd give me hers because she said he doesn't even check his email, and you're going to get my email. And it was the first of all, they said, "What? We have what?" And let me tell you something. I was at a Redland basketball game last year. My grandson was playing on the weekend, and they covered those gender neutral bathroom signs up with a piece of paper that
Of
said
course they
women's room
did.
and men's room because they
Christy,
don't want the parents to know. I have pictures of that, by the by.
Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, and I want you to hear this, Sandra. Correct me if I'm wrong. At no point did the West Shore School Administration inform the parents in
Hmm.
writing nor in email that we had transgender bathroom. Is that correct?
That's correct. And they also did not notify the parents. We went in, I think it was last year, um, that they had a billboard with a barcode that students, any students could get sexual material without parents knowing. Um, and we went in and met with the principal. They could get strap-ons or chest binders. We went and met with the principal, and we asked him if he actually called this place to see if it was safe, and he admitted he didn't, but we already did. So there,
Is
Hmm.
this
Mariana
it?
has it. Yes.
Hmm.
And there's
Yeah.
another picture, Mariana, with a barcode. So parents were very upset because children could basically start a process without the parents knowing. So this is another thing that I think it was last year, and I do believe that the librarian was she was in charge of the LGBT group that met after school.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that too. I've heard that
Now,
too.
I do want to make put a little insert here to the parents, and that is that we are at the moment talking about passing policy to keep the boys out of the girls' bathroom, but there is a push. There is a push for this policy not
Yes.
to
Yeah.
pass.
Of
Yeah.
Okay,
course
Oh,
there
there
is.
yeah.
is a
Yeah.
push on the
Yep.
left, and the fear is what's being said is that if the board passes that the board can get sued. Okay,
Well,
They're going
here's
to
the
get
so
good
sued with
news.
everything is
everything.
the threat on the suit.
Here's the
I'm
good
sorry.
news. We have something called the Independence Law Center that supposedly comes alongside school districts that get sued and can't afford a lawsuit and come alongside them and help them fight. So, what are you afraid of?
But we
I'll tell you what.
have this
Yep.
woman, we have this woman, Abigail Turney, fighting them, okay, does not want the Independence Law Center in there, wants to keep all the LGBTQ things in its place, does not understand the difference between competitive sport and contact sport.
Or
She proved that
gender
to us at
doesn't
this
know what a
meeting.
girl is.
Does not know what a woman is. So I wonder why, if I ask her what she is, what she's going to say she is, cannot say that, what a woman is, does not know what a man is, believes that gender is something that's not assigned at birth. So we have people like her. And then we have people like this gentleman here that also backs her
Oh,
up and he's the one responsible for bringing in all this graphic novels and stuff, he and his wife, into the West Shore and then hiding the fact and also promoting this. So this is the
wait,
battle that you're going to be
Mariana,
facing, Sandra.
isn't his wife she was the librarian, right?
She's an assistant
She was
principal
the
now.
librarian, yes, at the West Shore School District while he was president, and I believe that was a conflict of interest right there because she was also, what I've been told by parents, the head of the LGBTQ club here in the West Shore. Okay, so
Oh,
that was a conflict of interest having him as a president, knowing that these books are coming in, and his wife being the head of the LGBTQ, so of the
wow.
LGBTQ clubs, that is. So this is my question, Sandra. You are going to be facing these people once you're in there, and you're going to have to fight against their ideologies because they do not want to let these ideologies go. Well, if you because you were there last week when my husband spoke, and I don't know
Yeah.
if you saw what happened after the meeting was
Oh
over.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this is what we're
Mm-hmm.
facing, and
Mm-hmm.
this fear of lawsuit. The way I see it, let them sue, and then
Yep.
use
Yep.
taxpayers' money to
Bring it.
fight the suit because you're
Bring
Can
it.
using
I
taxpayer money for the stuff. Yeah.
can I say something?
Yes,
What I
ma'am.
think is strange, the one board member that's always concerned about us getting sued is also the person that is leading other people to sue
To
us.
sue
So
us.
I think it's really
Oh, this one.
please take it down. Take it
But
down.
it's the truth. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about Abigail Tierney, which and she runs the board like it was a personal, a courtroom. I'm gonna speak the truth. That's the person. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll take it down.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. You have to be willing to fight for what's right. And I've done this in the church. I've done this in the church. I have stood against. I am a more of a traditionalist. I don't like contemporary. I don't like worldly things in the church. I don't think you can mix the two.
You can't.
I think it makes the church more worldly. You don't wash the worldly things with the church and kind of cleanse it enough to make it acceptable and healthy and holy. And I have stood against fierce opposition. So I've been well schooled on this. I don't think you have any business running for school board, saying you're going to fight for the kids, and then you get in that seat and then you buckle. And I get sick of hearing, well, this is kind of how we have to do it. This is kind of how it works. This is
And
kind
it
of
doesn't work that way.
malarkey. And if
Hmm.
you look at, and I'll use President Trump as an example, and I still wear a Trump shirt almost every day. When I go out in public, I want it to strike courage in the hearts of those who need courage. I wore this
Yeah.
since the primary almost every day. And I'd go out and little old ladies will come up and say, oh, is anybody mean to you? And I go, nope. And truly, no one has ever confronted me negatively, ever. And I wore
Yeah,
this in
people are
Rehoboth Beach.
scared. People
I
are
wore this
scared.
in Rehoboth. But I also want people to know who are on the opposite side. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not intimidated by you. But yet these people get on the school board and all of a sudden they think they have to play nice. And you look at how President Trump has gotten things done. And I don't use foul language, but he uses language a little more salty or whatever, but he gets stuff done. And let me tell you something. If I needed a heart surgeon, and this one guy was sort of kind of like the kind of good in the nation, but and he was just the nicest guy. And then there was this foul mouth, rotten attitude, but he was the best heart surgeon in the nation. I'd be like, I'll take him. I'll take him. Sometimes you got to break a little bit of China. You got to break a little bit of China. And these school board members, God bless their little souls, get on that school board and all of a sudden they start taking advice from some of the others, maybe political consultants. Let's face it. Some of these people are listening to people that are saying that, well, if you want to get reelected, well, you really don't want to show that front. You don't really want to give the parents that impression. Oh, yes, you do. The parents should know exactly where you stand on every issue. The other board members should know exactly where you're coming from and exactly where you're going. They should know exactly what you're made of and exactly how hard you're going to fight and that you're going to be formidable. If you're going to fight for your children's well-being and the grandchildren's well-being and your neighbor's children's well-being, you better be well equipped and you better be willing. None of us want to hire a police officer who thinks most of the time he's going to be willing to get out of the car and chase down the bad guy,
That's a
right?
good point.
Right?
Yeah.
You want a cop that every time he's called to go after a bad guy, that he's going to go after the bad guy. And these school board members need to pull up their bootstraps, tighten up their belt a little bit, square off their shoulders, and get to work.
Now, Sandra, because we are coming soon to the closing. Okay. What if we vote you in? And I encourage anybody and everybody in Region 3, and we'll discuss that in a minute as to why I'm saying that, to vote Sandra in. She is coming up against Brian Geiswhite.
Mm-hmm.
And as I stated before, he's on the wrong side of everything, absolutely everything. And if you will allow me, Sandra, I'm going to discuss Brian Geiswhite, your opponent, for a minute. So here we go. So this is who she's coming up against, and it is time to quench the fire from the pit of hell and tell Geiswhite that his time is up. Geiswhite colluded with the left to silence the parents and go against the conservative board. He cross-filed, but he's not a conservative Republican. He'll fight you tooth and nail and say that he's a conservative Republican, but like the Bible says, you shall know them by their fruit. The
Yeah.
Democratic Party supports him. This 10-year tax hike on our citizens was his brainchild. He supports all woke agenda. He has caused lawsuits due to parental rights and religious rights violation.
Yes.
He had parents escorted out by the police for defending their rights. He is an enabler of the ineffectiveness of the West Shore School District administration. He has allowed pornography in our schools and denied the fact that they're there, and they're there to this day. He has falsely accused our conservative board members of violating the sunshine. His wife used to be the head librarian and the head of the LGBTQ club in the West Shore School District. She no longer holds that
Wow.
position. She is one of our assistant principals now in the schools.
Good.
Um, he supports social emotional learning, DEI,
Yes.
critical
Yes.
race theory. He's against parental choice. He's against parental rights. He masked your kids. He sold your kids out for state and federal funding.
Yes,
He
he
Mm.
did.
escorted us into a $15.1 million debt. And he advises the left, along with Abigail Cherney, to come out and bring the media when they know that something controversial or important or an important issue to a conservative constituent is coming up. So it is time to clean out the West Shore School District and that we vote this tyrant out. Now, that being stated, Sandra, what are your promises if you are elected as school board member to your constituents? What can we look forward to in you trying to accomplish?
Well, I think, I've heard some of the other school board members um, criticized for running on transparency, and then they accuse them of not being transparent with this sunshine violation, the Sunshine Act. But really, it's transparency. And when I say transparency, I'm talking about saying things out loud in a school board meeting that need to be said out loud in
That's
front of
right.
people on camera.
That's right.
I'm talking about forcing the administration to be transparent, forcing the administration to quit making parents write 3 and 4 and 5 right to knows before they're finally released a little bit of something,
That's
something.
right. That's
Okay.
right.
Forcing them to put things easier at the parents' disposal, at the taxpayer. Let's face it, at the taxpayer's disposal. Okay. I will fight for conservative values. That's the thing. Some of these people say, "Oh yeah, I'm a conservative," and then they vote with the liberals like 80% of the time.
Come
And we
on.
see this in Washington. And I'm not going to do it. And I promise you this too. I won't compromise.
Yeah, come
I'm
on.
not. Listen, you don't know how many calls I've gotten with people trying to tell me, we want you to get off of this message, or can you please, what we need is someone to go into the school board and say this. No, thank you. I tell them, you're calling the wrong person. And I won't back down. Even often when I go in, there's many times where they have 40 or 50 of the woke mothers that come in, usually mothers, some men, that come in, and they're really ready to rumble. and I'll walk right in the middle of them and plop down and sit right in the middle of them. And their heads explode. They don't even know how to handle that. I will promise you, I will walk into the lion's den.
That's
And
right.
I will be as fierce and I will be as formidable as I need to be to get the job done. And I will put these supposed conservatives on the spot in a meeting.
Feet to the
Instead
fire.
of all of them, it seems like all of them sort of kind of tamp it down and don't want to say anything. And let's just get through this meeting. That seems to be the temperature of the room a lot of times. Let's just get through this meeting. No, 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 no. We're here to deliberate and we're going to deliberate. You know, so often some of them will hijack the conversation, and we've all seen it where our eyes start to roll. Oh, here they go. Boy, do they love to hear themselves talk. But they never do that on the things that matter. It's always these ridiculous bloviations of things that are not even relevant.
Fruit.
And they like to hear themselves talk. And no, I'm going to use that time to call it out.
That's
and
right.
I will make my, and the other thing too is I'm not going to stop knocking doors and get out in the community. These people get elected. And then for the next 4 years, they never knock another door. They never, well, you know what though? Heidi Thomas does. Heidi Thomas does go out into the community because I've seen her at a couple of events. I saw her at the VFW. I saw her at a couple of little, you know, and some have done that. Maybe some of the others have too, and I just didn't notice because they're not in my region. That's possible. But it's almost like a lot of them get elected, and for the next 4 years, they're just doing their thing. And then maybe halfway through the last year, they go, "Oh, I've got to see what the voters are up to. I've got to see." And then they try to find out what the buzzword is, what the buzz issue is, or whatever, and get back on the gravy train of being reelected. That's not, you know, and I'm honestly, I'm not doing this for any self-serving reason. I don't know that anyone would, but I'm not doing it. It's got to be done. This has got to be done. And doggone it, if you're going to say you're going to do it, then do it with your best ability. We have got to get some changes made.
Yeah. Can I say one thing too?
Sure.
You know, my thing that I would like to say to the other conservative members on the board is that I think that they should use Sandra as a weapon, actually. I think they should all gather around Sandra because I know Sandra is going to be the driving force where they have a problem speaking up. And if they have somebody that's leading and will stand up and say these hard words or whatever,
and take the fire,
it could all fall in the line. Like everybody has a job to do, but some people are willing to put themselves out. And I think Sandra has shown us over and over again that she is that woman. And the other thing is, Sandra, that I know that you won't fall into, you know, we want the board to work together. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one thing that we have a problem with is that on the taxpayers' backs, they want to pay for them to go to social emotional, like, camps or like whatever. We don't elect you guys to be best friends. We elect you to do our will. And that's where I know with the way that you hold yourself and your morals and stuff that you're not going to stray. Like you can obviously play nice with them and stuff, but you're not going to, you know, go to this dinner and then, you know, feel like you got to join into the social emotional and change the way you are. I think that, you know, we have an issue with that too. We don't stay focused on what our main goal is. The main goal is not to be friends with all these people. It's for the children, and that's what I have lacked seeing on there. Like they have a very hard job. Don't get me wrong. Like I really do think they do, but these certain things with these policies and stuff, the children are hurting. Like all we've seen is theater, like fighting the LGBTQ army. And if we have somebody up there that was like, you know, like you said, go through this like an animal. The change happens with the policies.
Well, you know, I think that's very true, Kristy. Part of the reason with these conservative members, they don't know their own minds, and they can be talked out of something. They can be talked off a ledge. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to get up on that ledge, and you're not going to talk me down. Often, I have said to the Lord when I'm talking to the Lord, and I talk to the Lord often out loud. like a regular conversation, because that's just the easiest way for me to communicate to the Lord, is to talk to him just like I'm having a conversation. And I
Right.
say, Lord, I want to run and I want to jump off that cliff. I don't want to tiptoe up, look over the edge. Do I want to do it? Do I not? Now you should measure, you should measure and weigh before you put your hand to the plow, before you buy the field. No, you measure it. You know what you're buying. You put the hand to the plow, don't look back. So it took me a little bit to stick my toe into this. But once I do, man, I'm running and I'm going to jump off that cliff. But when you don't know your own mind, you can be talked out of something.
Yeah.
And that's where I have been schooled in the gospel. And so often, someone would try to shove something down my throat that was not biblical. And they came up, and it would be something that's been the hottest new buzz issue in all the new churches and everybody's doing. You know some of the philosophies that have come by. Every couple of years, there's a new it, and you got to understand it if you're gonna, And I would be like, well, that's not biblical. And if it's not biblical, it's not true. Okay,
That's right.
If you can't show me biblically the biblicalness of it and the heart of the gospel in it, and those two things, then it's not biblical. And with these other board members, they can be swayed into these high spending principles because they don't know their own minds. They don't have a line they won't cross. How can you continue to get us in debt when you know the economy? They roll their eyes when I talk about people not being able to afford their medicine. Listen, you knock on doors and people, first thing out of their mouth is, have you seen the price of eggs?
Right.
Have you seen the price of, this at the grocery store, that at the grocery store? These board members, that's why I say in the meetings often, when they say, well, the experts, I please don't listen to the experts. This is what got us here. My goodness, don't listen to the experts. You can't let if you need marriage counseling, don't go to a counselor who's been divorced 6 times. Please don't. Don't go to a marriage counselor that's been through 6 divorces. Okay. My sister, one time when she first became a diabetic at 30 years old, they sent her to a nutritionist. The nutritionist was over 300 pounds. Now, maybe she had a health issue. Maybe, I'm not the skinniest twig on the tree either. But my sister walked out of there so defeated. Like, how can I listen to anything? You could say, physician, heal thyself, practice what you preach, whatever. But these people want us to listen to them. And I think these conservative leaning board members have been gaslit by these experts. We've been doing this for how long? You don't understand how this works. Well, in the real world, when I worked at Seidel Hospital, the nurses had a favorite saying. There's the way they teach you, and then there's the way that works.
That's right.
Right? And when someone's bleeding out on the floor, you don't have time to go get a form and have them sign a release. You take care of the bleeding patient. And so these board members have bought into the fact that these other folks are the experts, that they need to listen to them. They need to calm themselves down. And this is how we're going to get through this. Just hold your nose and vote. Not doing it. Not even if I'm the only no vote. Even if I'm the only no vote. And listen, I don't proclaim to be right all the time. And I can, the Bible, the Lord says, come and let us reason together. And there's been times where I was sure my husband was wrong about an issue or whatever. And, and then all of a sudden I find out, you're right. And I'm quick to tell him. I'm quick to say, you were right. Yeah. About that Barack Obama thing. Man, were you right? That is what they were trying to do to this nation, to bring us to our knees. And so you have to be willing to listen and deliberate. And that's why sometimes when I'm conversing with them, I'll say, listen, maybe I don't understand something here. Tell me something that explains to me.
They can't tell you nothing.
They can't.
But they want that 3 minutes afterwards to tell you're wrong.
Good luck with that.
That's what I said. Because guess what, Sandra? I was telling Mariana today, tell them to do it. Tell them to do it, because that's going to be the first time that they're going to see the left and right join forces to sue them.
Yeah.
Let them go.
Well, they won't see, but here's the thing: they won't do it to the left. They won't do it to the
Oh
left.
no, they won't do it to the left. They'll
They
do
will
it to
do
the
it to
right.
the
Correct.
conservative. And honestly,
Oh,
you
well,
know,
there you go.
so often they tell us we need you guys there to support us. If they do that, we ought to all get up and walk out of the
Walk
meeting
out.
and then skip the next couple of meetings. Just skip them.
Hmm.
Just skip them.
I
Let them
agree.
have all the blue hair people come in and scream at them like their hair's on fire. And not one conservative in the room, not one friendly face. Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Not one friendly face in the room to support them, to lift them up, to pray with them, to pray for them. That's what they want to do. Bring it. Bring it. But let me tell you something. I'm going to go out and I'm going to knock doors. And I'm going to explain myself to the voter. And I am going to converse with the voter. And I'm going to commit myself to the taxpayer. And let them be the judge. And God help them all if I get on that board. God help them all. Because this one thing I do know, I will be a voice crying out in the wilderness if I need to reason and to fight for the taxpayer, to fight for the children, to fight for the parents. And as Trump says, fight, fight, fight.
That's right. We're going to
Fight,
get you a
fight,
shirt
fight.
that says that. Fight, fight,
And
Amen.
fight.
that should be our motto this year. Fight, fight, fight. Now I'm
Put a
Amen.
little
gonna
tape on your ear. Put a little tape on your ear.
Yes, yes, yes.
now I am gonna say this. Sandra and I are friends. Sandra and I don't see eye to eye and sometimes some things, but you know what?
That's right.
I will fight for her right to say what she needs to say and do what she has to do, and vice versa. I do support Sandra 100%. Okay, because honestly, guys, with Brian Geiswhite throwing his name back in the hat, and he is having the full
Mhm.
support of the GOP, the Republican, and all these PACs that are out there. We need to all work together and push Sandra forward, propel her forward through that
Mhm.
finish line. Because if we want to finish cleaning up the West Shore School District, we
Yeah.
cannot afford to have another 2, 3, 4 years of people like Brian Geiswhite, people like
Mhm.
Abigail Turney, people like Communist Chung, people like
Mhm.
Hembig, and did I forget one? I probably did. Okay, but anyway, we cannot afford to have more years of these people sitting on the board. We need to bring people who are actually looking out for the best interests of our schools, our students, and our teachers, because our teachers are also affected by this. We have a voice now,
Mhm.
okay, and that voice is that of Sandra Gonzalez. They're going
Mhm.
to try to paint her, and I'm telling you right now, they're going to try to paint her as though she's hot headed, as though she doesn't have her facts straight, because that's what they're going to try to do. Okay, as the lady that's always yelling at the board. But I'm going to paint a different Sandra to you. I'm going to paint a Sandra with a big heart. I'm going to paint a Sandra that has a relationship with God.
Mhm.
I'm going to paint a Sandra that is trying to protect you from all this pornography, from all this social emotional learning, from all this DEI. A
Mm. Mm.
Sandra that wants the children to know that 2 + 2 is 4. Okay.
Mhm.
A
Yeah.
Sandra that has no problem defining what a man and a woman is,
Mm.
actually knows what a man and a woman is. Okay. A
Mhm.
Sandra that's not going to gaslight you nor the community. And a
Mm.
Sandra that's going to fight, fight, fight for your right, your voice, and your children.
Amen.
So if
Amen.
we want to finish the job that we started a year ago in cleaning the West Shore School District, folks,
Yeah.
we have to get Sandra Gonzalez into that seat.
It
Ladies,
will be
any last
easy.
comments?
I think it's going to be. I think Sandra doesn't need the Republican support or the PAC support because she has Jesus support,
Amen.
and I
Amen.
think that Sandra is going to win hands down.
Mhm. Well, and I've got to tell you, I will not crossfile. I will not have it
Good.
on my record that I ran as a Democrat. And I'll tell you this too, because this happened to a friend of mine. Someone on the Democrat side in the primary wrote him in because they liked him. He was running for township supervisor. And he didn't know he could get that stricken. You have so many days after the primary that if someone wrote you in on the Democrat side, they legally, unless you go to the your election office and have that stricken and removed, once a certain amount of days go by, your name's on that Democrat side and there's nothing you can do about it.
I wouldn't do it either. It's weak.
So
I wouldn't do it
I
either. It's
will
cowardly.
That's right. It's
get
weak.
there right after the primary and I will find out did anybody write me in on the Democrat side. And if they did, you strike me from that side of the aisle because I will not. I've said this to the Lord about abortion. I will not have it in the annals of heaven that I voted for someone who was pro-choice.
That's right.
I don't care how fantastic you think you are. I will not have that in the annals of heaven. I will not have in the annals of heaven that I ran as a Democrat. I
That's
won't
right.
do it. So I do need those in my region to step up, and I will work with a team of people. I have some folks. We have 2 township supervisor seats up that I'm working. We have 4 people running at this point, and 2 are terrible candidates, and 2 are fantastic candidates. And I'm also going to be working to get those 2 candidates elected. And while I'm knocking door to door, make sure that people know to vote no on retaining these 3 Supreme Court, Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices. We have to let everybody know that they should not be retained after masking our children and stripping our rights away during COVID.
Right.
And not standing up for the little guy, that these 3 judges know.
That's right. That's important. Local is so important, and I'm glad that you understand that.
Amen. So there you have
Yes.
it.
Yes. All right, guys. So
All right,
we are
team.
about to close down our interview with Sandra. Sandra, I'm sure this is not going to be the first time we're going to have you before
Yep.
Election Day on the boiling point. I'm sure that Jonathan will be reaching out to
That
you.
would
Now,
be
I do
great.
want to remind the parents of one thing. We have started our prayer walks in order to bring down and take down the strongholds that are holding down the West Shore School District. Okay, we need to pray these strongholds down. Our
Amen.
next prayer walk will be March 22nd at 10 a.m. We will be meeting at the Cedar Cliff High School parking lot behind the aquatorium. So I will invite you to come and join us. It's time to tear down these strongholds in the name of Jesus. Remember that Jesus said, "Verily I say unto you, whatever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye
Amen.
shall loose on earth shall be loose in heaven." Matthew 10,
Amen.
18, 18. So you are invited to come and join the prayer circle because, like we stated in the beginning, this is a spiritual fight and you have to fight fire with fire.
Amen.
That being stated, Sandra, we're praying for you. Sandra, do
Amen.
not let them discourage you. And remember,
Amen.
Sandra, fight, fight, fight.
Fight,
Again,
fight,
Amen.
fight, fight,
region,
fight.
fight, fight, fight. Region
Amen.
3 parents, please come out in numbers to vote
Yes.
for Sandra Gonzalez. So this
And
is Mariana.
we still need parents in some of these other regions. Mariana, what region are we still looking to fill?
We still need to
One.
fill Region 1.
We need 2 people
Region
in Region
1,
1.
we are in desperate need of that because the one that we have running for Region 1, she's on the wrong side of everything. And that will be Mary Dunkowski. Okay.
Okay.
Then we have
Yeah.
in Region 2, we have Terry Mickle running against Kelly Brent.
Kelly
I will
Brent.
encourage you to come out in Region 2 and vote for Kelly Brent
Yeah.
because Miss Mickle is also, or Mrs. Mickle, let me get that straight. She is also, and we heard her speak this week, she is also on the wrong side of everything. So
Yeah.
we need
Yeah.
parents to come out. And we're looking for men also to come out and help us in
Yes.
this fight to clean up the West Shore School District. Enough is enough. And we're taking our
And
schools back, whether they like it or not.
Our Christian school board members should be coming out to this and
Yes.
participating in this. If they say they are fighting for our kids and they're trusting in the Lord and they're praying, let them come out and do the walk and pray.
Amen. Amen. Let's go.
Correct. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So
Put
this
up or
is
shut up.
Mariana, Kristy, and Sandra. There you go.
Good night, guys.
Put up or shut up. And
Amen.
we're saying good night today from the boiling point. God bless and
God bless.
fight, fight, fight.
Amen.
Amen.